Hello, Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer, functional aesthetics EC, helping average guys perform better inside and outside the gym. So this is going to be a pretty short video compared to my normal videos, and reason being is just happened to have this pop into my head while I was out here on a walk with my wife, and it has to do with flexibility. This is actually something that surprised me with a lot of the guys that come to me for fitness. They want to be more flexible, you know, and this was not something that I usually thought that guys really cared that much about, but it's good because you do want to be flexible. Now, thing is, more important than flexibility though, is you have different kinds of flexibility, right? You've got your flexibility, which is like a static form of flexibility. You passively move your limbs into a range of motion. You know, it's the kind of the stretching that you did if you did like martial arts or things like that, where you just kind of sit in the splits, or you do a low lunge, or you're stretching out your hamstrings, etc. But more than this static flexibility, you want to build mobility. And mobility is not only having the range of motion to get into, right, like you can do the splits or something, but also the strength to move in and out of that range of motion as well. An example of that would be like, you know, Van Damme and some of, maybe what was that, Bloodsport, when he's doing the training and he's doing the splits between the chairs, and then he like or he was like doing the splits with the ropes or whatever, and then he like pulled his legs back together out of the splits. So that'd be one example. And in the past, people thought that, you know, lifting weights would make you inflexible and muscle bound, when in fact, one of the best ways to build real world functional flexibility, and the flexibility that's going to help minimize the risk of injuries, is simply to do all of your exercises with a full range of motion, maybe even pause in the end range, right? Incidentally, this is actually one of the best ways to build muscle as well. For the past few months, we've been hearing a lot in the fitness space, particularly like bodybuilding space, a lot about doing partial reps from the end range of the rep, right? And I think sometimes they get a little bit, you know, micromanaging this too much, or too much in the minutia, because really it's called an intensifier. It's just good training, right? So when you do regular training, most of the time you're just doing full range of motion reps, right? Now, these full-length partials, as they call them, for example, at the bottom of the biceps curl, when it's down hanging at thigh level, right? That first half of the range of motion up till the 90-degree bend of the elbow is going to produce the most muscle growth, right? But you don't need to just, okay, like this is going to produce the most muscle growth, let's just only train that range of motion, right? Because we also want to be functional, and our bodies weren't designed just to move through a particular range of motion. And the goal of training, at least for me, is not purely just to build muscle just so I look good. I want the building the muscle to be an extension of my training. It enhances my ability to perform, and because I can perform, how my body looks is a manifestation of the kind of exercise that I do. And so when you're doing this kind of training and you're doing the full range of motion, it's going to help you to build that strength in the entire range of motion, right? And usually at the long length, at the end range, when your joint is completely locked out, is the weakest portion where people tend to get injured, right? When they go to that extreme length, and move there very rapidly, that's when you usually get, injured. So if you're training that all the time, you're going to decrease your risk of injury, and you're also going to develop flexibility as well as strength in that full range of motion. One of the ways I like to look at bodybuilding training is talking about it. It's like basically stretching with weights. And when you can do the stretch with a certain weight and it's no longer challenging, then you increase the amount of weight to make it challenging again. But you never lose the flexibility as you are building the strength. So going back, and this is probably what I'm going to close with, when you're building that long length partial or utilizing the long length partials, as I said before, it's not anything new, right? When you'd want to use these is at the end of a regular set, right? Probably all heard of doing drop sets, right? So this is a similar context. So the reason you use drop sets is when you have been working with a particular weight for a while and you have got stuck where you're not either increasing the reps or the weight, or you're kind of stuck at a certain rep range and weight for a long period of time. And so if you've been there for a couple of weeks, then you might want to do a drop set. Let's say, for example, you still have energy, but you just can't move the weight, right? It's just too heavy. So you utilize that extra energy by decreasing the weight and performing more reps. However, if you don't have energy, right, it doesn't make sense to go beat a dead horse and try to do more reps just to try to build up more volume. That's what we call drunk volume. So the same thing if we're doing long length partial reps, right? Instead of just doing half the rep from the bottom to the mid portion so that you can try to improve your, to build more muscle, why not do the full range of motion of the rep? And then when you can no longer do full range of motion, lift it as high as you can until you can't lift it anymore. That's the point of doing long length partials. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. And if you're like me, you're probably outside, not on Facebook, probably outside enjoying the weather rather than being pent up inside. So you'll probably see this later on when the weather's bad or when you're bored. Anyway, whatever you're doing, have fun doing it, and we'll see you all next time.